but the same could also be true for the opposite. When games surprise you, when you have the lowest of expectations and yet they engage you more than you could ever imagine, that's when we find some of our favourite games.
That's how I ended my video on games that disappointed me. Games have the power to leave you heartbroken, but on the flip side, the feeling of finding a hidden gem, your new favourite game that you never expected to find, is exhilarating. There are many reasons that games can lower your expectations going in, which in turn leaves room for them to surprise you. In this video, I hope to be able to convince you to broaden your horizons. Some of my favourite games I would have never expected to love for a plethora of reasons. So let's take a look back at some of these surprises, and why they were able to leave me more contempt than I could ever imagine. Not everyone experiences games the same way. I'm sure there are some games which you know you are meant to love, been told by countless people it's a generation-defining game, and yet the game just doesn't click with you. Well, of course, that sentiment works both ways. The Club is a game that reviewed fine. It got pretty much 7s across the board. To call the reception of this game mixed is an understatement. Yet, there's something about this clusterfuck of a game that I absolutely enjoy. For those of you who don't know The Club, and I'm sure it's many of you, it's a third-person shooter where the player takes the role of a character who is forced to compete in the club, which is a modern form of gladiatorial combat. You have to rack up score by continuously killing mindless enemies in varied ways. Headshots, ricochets, long-range shots, yada yada. This all influences a combo system, which incentivizes quick and flamboyant playstyles. To call it just a shooter would be a disservice to what it does new. To call it innovative would be hyperbolic. Sadly, The Club sits in a sort of limbo between the two, unique enough to separate it from the abundance of Gears of War clones present in this generation, but generic enough that it got overlooked by many. That's not to say that the game doesn't have an endless list of problems which does impact the overall experience. Clunky movements, convoluted level design, and lifeless environments. But the game is able to shine with its effective replayability, enjoyable gameplay loop, and instant accessibility. Just picking up the game for a quick run before putting down again contempt is made effortless. This is thanks to the clear focal point of the game, prioritizing fun gameplay above all else. The Club shouldn't be hailed as one of the greats in gaming. For it to die in obscurity wouldn't upset me, in fact I would completely understand it. But The Club isn't a waste of time. It has interesting mechanics, such as its combo system, which isn't popular in third-person shooter games. The Club could act as an interesting point of inspiration for future games, and more than that, The Club taught me something. You don't have to listen to reviews. Your own subjective experience should be the judge of whether a game is good to you, and you won't know that unless you try. And it's thanks to this that I've played even more objectively bad games, which became quick favourites. Emergency Heroes, 12 Minutes, and even Killer is Dead, which I liked so much it led me to creating a video dissecting it here. So just because you need to play this genre-defining masterpiece doesn't mean you shouldn't play this obscure, averagely reviewed mess, because who knows, you might love it more. Genres are both a useful guide to games and also a constricting label which decentivizes developers from innovating. When it comes to choosing a next game to play, often we like to look within our own confines of what we consider to be our favourite types of games, our favourite genres. One genre which I would never really touch seriously in a million years is the, well, adult genre. And yet, hidden deep in their midst is a game that I beat not only once, but twice. Fully. And that game is Huniepop. I know I have a lot of explaining to get through in order to convince you that Huniepop is an actual good game and not just this. The adult label for the game masks the other aspects which actually make this an enjoyable experience. Mainly, it's interesting, full-of-depth puzzle gameplay, which is able to advance the formula popularized by games like Candy Crush into a challenging, tight gameplay loop. Furthermore, the dating sim aspects are definitely a cut above the rest, with characters that have slightly more depth than most other dating sim girls. While that isn't saying a whole lot, it's undeniable to say that Huniepop isn't fun. Yes, you could use a multitude of other words to describe Huniepop, but the one I didn't expect to use before I played it was fun. It wasn't before long that I would boot up Huniepop for reasons other than the adult parts. What I expected to be a misogynistic porn game with terrible puzzle mechanics which only served as a filler between the good parts actually turned out to be a pretty fantastic puzzle game with present but ignorable misogynistic porn elements. Do I wish the game didn't have the attractive naked girls? No, but that definitely wasn't why I found the game to be so fun. I expected that part. I didn't expect to actually find something to enjoy past that. So don't become fixated on genres. While they do have some purpose, they often are used only to fit games into labels for convenience sake. I never played any strategy games until I tried Civ 5, now I have over 100 hours in it. I'm sure given the opportunity, some genres may surprise you. Just because you haven't played them before doesn't mean you can't try now. Sometimes your own personal bias can prevent you from trying a game that you may have loved. This could be a result of a poor experience with the prior entry into the series, the genre not being your favourite, or just a general dislike for the developers. Well, when it came to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, it was a mix of all of them. I am about to end my YouTube career in one sentence. I don't like The Legend of Zelda. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I've tried, I've really tried. Countless times I've played the opening acts of Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, and yet none of them have engaged me in the slightest. From the combat to the puzzles and the story, it's all felt flat to me. The only Legend of Zelda games I've actually fully enjoyed have been the Warriors titles and the fucking train one. Well, there goes my integrity. So when it came to Breath of the Wild's release, I didn't have much hope. Not only did I not enjoy Zelda, but open worlds too failed to ever grasp me like I wanted them to. Fallout 4, Cyberpunk, and if you've watched my latest video, The Witcher 3, all lacked in giving me much enjoyment. The only exceptions to this were the Forza Horizon games and Sunset Overdrive. And so, mixing a series that I could never get into and a genre that always failed to impress, I was sure to be disappointed. However, given that it was the only game on Switch at launch other than 1-2 Switch, I was forced to give it a go. And how thankful I am for that. It's definitely not an understatement to call Breath of the Wild groundbreaking. Never before had I played a game which offered so much freedom and choice. Playing it truly felt like an evolution of not only the series and the genre, but of the medium itself. While it's been 5 years since I first played it, I still can't get into any Zelda games, or really any open world games for that matter, but that's okay. Sometimes a game is, on paper, everything that you hate, the antithesis of your supposed favourite game. And yet, sometimes all the puzzle pieces just fit together perfectly to create a game that you love regardless of its supposed flaws. I hope in this video I've given you a reason to try something new. Go outside your comfort zone. Don't listen to what others tell you. Try things in places you wouldn't even think to look. Even if whatever you try doesn't surprise you, it's not a wasted experience. Sometimes even experiencing something bad can show you how good something you love truly is. So what do you have to lose? Give that indie a try. Give that genre you've always put off a go. You may find something to surprise you.